Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Gathering. I am David Ault, and it's always an honor to know that you are sharing a little bit of your time with me. Thank you so much. I value you and I value the opportunity to share insights with you. One of the great things about these insights, whether they come through my regular meditations or study, is to know that I'm working on the same things that you are. I'm allowing myself to be open and available with beginner's mind for anything that impresses itself upon my heart, my consciousness. And several things really came in strongly this week that I'm sort of excited to share with you and to get your reaction and your feedback on. For many, many years, decades actually, I was a platform minister, a senior minister in New Thought church communities. And as I was reflecting upon that time, I could see a pattern of behavior that was not optimal. I would call it probably the most repetitive mistake that I would make. Mistake. It is a mistake on my relationship with energy because everything is energy, right? Everything is energy. All of our relationships are comprised of the way in which this energy is working off each other. And so I'm going to call it a mistake, the most common mistake that I would make. And someone would come to me with an issue or a problem with someone else. You know, that sort of relational conflict, which is always prevalent, right? Let's say that this person is someone that I held dear into my heart and they're having conflict with someone else. Well, they would come in and they would tell me the story. They would give that energy of their experience to me. And the mistake that I would make, the mistake with that energy, is I would take that on. I would begin to align with their perception of that experience. So if someone hurt their feelings, if there was a misunderstanding, if there was an act of betrayal, I would become sort of like Papa Bear and I would want to protect them. I would want to envelop them or go to their side without really sitting and going back to the old adage of there's their truth and my truth and then the truth that's in the middle. Some way to be able to work and to consider that everything is perception, and that what if it's not my job to be the Papa Bear to go in and to protect? What if my job is to be a sounding board only? And in that being a sounding board, my only sacred responsibility is to allow them to get their upset, their perception, their mistake of energy, their pain out, but not to fix it. And so, what would happen a lot of times in full transparency is that I would take that on and I would have it then affect my relationship to the party that they were upset with. Have you ever done that in with married couples or romantic couples, and you're friends with both of them? One comes to you with uh, something that the other one proposedly did, and so all of a sudden we pick sides, and then they make up, and then all of a sudden we're sort of left there with egg on our face. It's kind of like that, right? And so I bet that you can reflect upon an experience where that has happened to you, where that thing, that protector in you, has wanted to come and make it better for the other person without really looking at what's going on. So, what is that prompt to go in and to protect? What is that prompt that wants to fix? So, we can argue with this thing that I'm proposing to you with regards to like a mother protecting their child from safety and harm, but that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about relational conflict. I'm talking about how someone's karma is prepared to work something out, and it isn't my business actually to go in and to fix it. I'm not invited to fix it. And so, what's the relevance of that? Well, I call it a mistake because when I would do that, and I did it often, I loved my way of loving was to want to fix it for people, to fix it for my staff, to fix it for my friends. And when they were hurting, I didn't want them to hurt. But is that the most optimum use of sacred energy? I'm going to say that in my reflections this week, it's not. Because always that choice came back to sort of bite me in the butt. It really was not a wise thing to do, nor was it good leadership, because I was already making assumptions then about these people. I was automatically taking on the perception of another person. And I know that we've all done this. So, what do we do about that? Well, in this work, in this sacred work of understanding just how powerful we are, and that we are co-creators with infinite energy, and that to the degree that we are aware of our responsibility in this collaboration is the degree by which we can channel that energy, is the degree by which we deepen our own self-awareness, and in return then are optimizing our place in the world, our role in humanity, our soul's purpose, which is to alleviate suffering, not to align with someone else's suffering and expand the suffering by going, you're right, but by noticing and witnessing the suffering, thus allowing that which is the perception to sort of deflate, not inflate. Because you see, that's exactly what I would do, is when I would go into comfort, my comforting was actually inflating their suffering by not willing to simply be the witness. I was automatically assuming that the other person had harmed them when I have no idea the depth of the internal themes that this person that I love, that I'm wanting to protect, is operating from. I have no control over the way in which they witness and perceive the world. They could have all different kinds of injustice buttons and self-worth things that I'm not fully aware of, that I'm sort of usurping that work and trying to patch it for them. And so how do we bring remedy to this? How do we bring more awareness to this so that our choices become more in alignment with our soul's responsibility? Wow. I wish that there was a handbook that said, stop it, and this is how you stop it. But I want you to consider this, that when we notice these things, so I noticed this week, it was a part of a subject matter that I was researching and studying and meditating on, and I thought, wow, when I reflect back on my time as a minister, that's my biggest mistake. That is one way that I wasn't helping, that I was actually perpetuating the suffering and then causing my own suffering and causing and attributing suffering to the person that I was making assumptions about. So you start to see the circle. And as I was reflecting on that, I was also reflecting on the solution. And I came across the idea that the word sacrifice means to make sacred. Sacrifice means to make sacred. And so if I do take something that is a mistake, a misdirected, a missing the mark, what I can do is I can take that mistake and I can sacrifice it, or I can make it sacred by bringing awareness to it. And one of the ways to bring awareness to these sort of reactionary responses, these habitual things that we do, is to notice them as they're happening. So let's say that you're saying, well, they just happen and they happen fast and all of a sudden I'm in it. Okay. Then how do we practice then being more present in the moment? I'll give you a little example. Wherever you are listening to this, I want you to hit pause and I want you to look around you for 30 seconds. I want you to Either stop where you are and just look around the room and fixate on a few things and breathe while you're looking at that. Go ahead, and I invite you to do that. So what did you learn? What did you learn? You learn that when I become more mindful about things, when I pause and I practice being in the present moment, I can begin to become more and more aware of my surroundings. I can become more and more aware of the infinite potentiality that is offered to me, which has nothing to do with thought per se. Because my thought can say, oh my God, I don't have enough. Oh my God, I can't believe they hurt you. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. But if you stop that succession of thought, pause and be here now by breathing and just looking. So if my thought is I don't have enough or I'm afraid financially, I can pause and I can see that perhaps there's shelter, that there is electricity, that there is provision. All of a sudden I'm stopping that insanity of thought and I'm bringing back to what I have now. And so when you practice that, when you do sort of like a Buddhist meditation walk, where you take one step and you pause and you breathe and you look around and you look at your feet and you look at the ground and you look at the sky and then you take another step, all of a sudden, just walking across a pavement or walking across a yard or a room becomes a powerful spiritual practice because you're slowing down that hamster wheel of out of control thought and you're bringing everything into the present moment. So, the more that you do this type of simple meditative practice, the more accustomed we become to taking things a little bit slower and not being so reactive. So, by introducing more concentrated devotional action, whether it be through walking, whether it be this is I'm washing the dish, and as I'm washing the dish, I'm just focused on the dish. I'm breathing. So as I'm breathing, I'm just focused on the way in which I have the power, the inherent ability to channel that breath in a way by my own consciousness. Doing these simple kinds of practices helps. It does. It helps when I find myself wanting to rush and be Papa Bear to protect somebody. Because now I've exercised this practice of being more mindful. And then in that moment where at one time I would be so reactive, now I can bring that mindfulness practice and I can just be the witness of their upset and remind them that they're loved without having to choose sides, without having to even insidiously validate my own worth by wanting to play some role for someone else. All of this is about awareness. All of this is about witnessing thought. All of this is about watching the way in which we want to rush in and fix something. And so, this rushing in to fix something is the thing that we are invited to sacrifice. This absent mindedness is something that we get to sacrifice, to make sacred. I'm not asking that you admonish yourself. I got to look at and go, so I don't want to admonish myself for all of the times that I did that in leadership because I thought that I was showing some sort of allegiance and love to them, which is really a faux love, a fake love. It was a conditioned love. It wasn't real, true, conscious love. And so I'm not wanting to make myself wrong for those things. What I'm wanting to do is as those things continue to play themselves out in present day, I want to become accustomed to and welcoming to the idea that I can sacrifice that impulse in the moment and make it sacred. Not condemn myself and go, oh, I did it again, but to take that awareness or take that action and sacrifice it and make it sacred. Because everything is energy. And what am I really doing? I am becoming a better steward, a more wise steward of myself and my use of energy. It's a beautiful thing, right? And so that's one example. That's one example of bringing more wisdom to ourselves and our capability of navigating with infinite energy. Noticing this idea of needing to fix, notice this idea of wanting to go in and protect. One thing, one example. The other part, the other piece of energy was around the peak experience. So you can tell I've been doing a lot of life reflection, and there were times in my life where I threw everything into wanting to birth a peak experience. Nothing wrong with that. The peak experience of walking the Camino. The Camino is the sacred path across the country of Spain. It's one of the ancient pilgrimage, probably the most ancient pilgrimage that exists within our planet. And it dates back to the Middle Ages, and you walk across Spain. You walk across the Camino de Santiago, the way of St. James. And you can look it up. A lot of people know it now, but it was remarkable. But there was a peak experience with that. That peak experience came on that final day when I got to the city of Santiago de Compostela. And as I was winding down, I could see the spires of the Cathedral of St. James, which is the destination point. I could see it. And after 34 days of walking across Spain, when I saw that, I was overcome. I was overcome with emotion, and I was like, oh my God, I did it. Oh my God, I made it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Peak experience. Summiting Kilimanjaro. Peak experience, right? And it's something that I will never forget. Peak experiences are incredible. They're great. And it can be a slippery slope. It can be a misuse of energy when we begin to design life and happiness and fulfillment solely on the peak experience. So, peak experience isn't necessarily, it isn't sustainable. It's like orgasm. Orgasm is like a physical peak experience, and then it subsides. But we are not perpetually in that state. Neither are we perpetually in the state of the peak experience. And so where the peak experience then becomes paradox is when we then downplay the value of our day-to-day life. That ties also into mindfulness, of being able to look at washing that dish, and can I make washing that dish just as sacred as the peak experience of summiting Kilimanjaro or walking across the Camino or orgasm? Can I welcome in that now moment and realize that everything can be a sort of peak experience if I can begin to understand sacredness as a constant? Because in my humanness, I am categorizing sacredness with something like a peak experience, something like meeting a holy person, something like shamanic journeying. We become then addicted to the peak experience, and then we discount our day-to-day actions and life. And that can also promote suffering, because suddenly now I'm living life futurizing about how do I get to the next peak experience. I start to reserve the peak experience for geography or a holy person or an event, rather than taking this now moment and letting it have all of the full permission within me to become holy. These things, these two things in my reflections this week felt so incredibly powerful to me to be able to witness and to witness with love and to go, ah, I see. I see how I've done that. I see how I mistook this idea to rush and protect and to take sides as love, when really it's not. It's a misuse of energy. I see how I've lived many years of my life kind of crafting and building and timelining everything to have another peak experience, when I'm missing out, or I'm mistaking the fact that every day is that canvas for a peak experience of sweetness and of revelation and of communion with the sacred holy, the infinite of what we call God or source or power, to be here in that moment, that everything is aligned with that. And so if either of these things are relatable to you, if you find yourself in my behavior, then what can we do about it? I think again it goes back to a moment by moment practice. Maybe it's something where you set a timer, and every time the timer goes off, you have a practice, a reflection, a devotional moment where you're going to breathe and you're going to express gratitude about something. You can take the most simplistic things. You could one day say, okay, today I'm going to focus on water. And as I focus on water, every time that I encounter water, I'm going to practice gratitude. I'm going to acknowledge the water. I'm going to acknowledge the privilege that I have of having access to water. That's an easy one for me because I work with so many people across the world who are challenged by that and don't have that. And so I'm becoming more and more mindful of how blessed I am with regards to my relationship with water. So again, mindful of the most simplistic thing. I can choose something like light, like electricity, my ability to make this video for you. And I can pause every time that I'm aware of, oh my God, I am being nurtured right now by electricity. And I can give thanks for it. I can find a way to bring meaning to its presence in my life. Shelter, transportation, people that I love, nature. Oh my God, the ways in which we can practice mindfulness are infinite. But take one a day. Just take one thing a day that is a part of your world, and notice the way in which there is a ripe opportunity to move from being unconsciously relatable to it to bringing consciousness to it, to not taking it for granted. When we do that, each time that we do something like that, we are bringing our awareness into greater alignment, strengthening our awareness with regards to all things relational. It's holistic, it affects everything. Instead of living life in this wishing for the peak experience and rushing to take sides and losing ourselves in perception, all of the sudden we are a walking, breathing, sacred energy transmitter. And everything that is filtering itself through us has an element of that power. That's what the Holy of Holies is. That's what being an instrument or a conscious bodhisattva in the world is. That is what strengthens our karma yoga or our service to the world. It's that mindfulness. And so everything then becomes an opportunity to remind ourselves. Everything is not an opportunity to get something because there's nothing to get. Everything is an opportunity to remind us that which is the all is right here. That what we are waiting on, we are. that we are the ones, we are the holy, we are the thing that we've been seeking out and reserving for the peak experience. And so, how can you do that? How can you do that now? Before you sign off watching this video, when you do, again, take a moment and breathe. Create some form of visual, mental accountability and fall in love with it. Fall in love with the richness that comes with the return to pivoting to awareness, for seeing that all is God. All of this is in alignment with bringing integrity to the main principle. The main principle is that everything is God. Everything is love. Love is the only reality. How are you going to bring integrity to that? That's where all of this has been coming to me in my daily devotionals, is I keep saying, I keep intending, how can I bring more integrity to that principle? And so now what I'm doing is I'm witnessing, I used to do this. I see how life is reserved for these peak experiences. And so it's a beautiful thing, because my intention is revealing to me exactly what I get to work on. And I'm excited to share that with you, because I believe that there are those of you who are probably doing the same thing that I've been doing. And it feels good. It feels good to see it, to turn to it, to acknowledge it, and to begin to implement new ways of being. So there's our gift for today. Please be willing to share with me how this resonates with you, and how you are finding ways to maximize, to optimize, to sacrifice, to make sacred yourself as the expression of energy, the expression of God. All is well. God bless. Much love.